Welcome. I'm Mother Sylvia, and I'm here with our parish administrator extraordinaire, Jennifer. We are very excited and looking forward to beginning to welcome people back to St. Mark's for in-person worship in really small numbers, but we can't wait. It is, however, imperative that if we're going to do that, that we're all on the same page so that we can do that in ways that maximize safety and hospitality and adhere to all of our diocesan and state governmental guidelines. But above all, for the purposes of promoting the health and creating a healthy and hospitable environment when people gather for in-person worship. So Jennifer is going to orient us to the basic protocols that we're going to ask everyone who hosts and assists with worship at St. Mark's to follow when we welcome people for any kind of in-person worship or in-person event in the weeks and months ahead. So Jennifer has prepared a handy dandy PowerPoint for us.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the check-in process. Oops.
You have to click on it to enable it to, there we go.
So when you arrive, all of the materials that you'll need will hopefully already be out in the entry area. What you'll be looking for is, for starters, a reservations list. There's a clipboard, and it has several sheets of paper on it, usually 3 sheets of paper that has, again, the reservation list, the check-in process, reminder sheet, just a list of reminders for you in case you need to refer back to anything, and then also an available seating list for the indoor services. There's also 2 thermometers, there are gloves, there are extra masks, hand sanitizer, and cleaning wipes. So hopefully everything you need to feel safe for yourself and also to help other people. A comment about masks. Everyone is required to wear a mask who is over the age of 2. And all masks must cover the nose and the mouth. And if they don't, then we have extra masks available, and we will always have them available for people if you need them. We have 2 digital non-touch thermometers, and it looks just like this picture here. When you get the thermometer, it's in a little plastic holder, and it will already be cleaned from the last time it was used. You just need to pick it up and press the little trigger, and it will come on. Now, when you use the thermometer, and you should practice in advance because for some reason it's not intuitive the way it works, but you do hold it close to the forehead of the person that you're taking a thermometer. You press the trigger, you do not make contact, and then you release the trigger. It will not take a reading until you release the trigger. So that's really, really important. And a lot of people have been confused by that have been volunteering already. Now, as far as holding it close to the forehead, it is 2 to 5 centimeters, which is 3/4 of an inch to 2 inches. When you take a reading, it will give you 1 of 3 outputs. The first one is a low reading, and you can see a picture of that. If you get a low reading, most likely you are not close enough and you need to move the thermometer closer. It also might have something blocking like hair. So if they have hair across their forehead, just have them remove it so that you can get a clean reading. A normal temperature, which is the second picture down below, is going to be between, and actually it's showing a little low, but it's going to be between about 97.9 and 98.6. I would not worry about like a few points off. What we want to worry about is a high reading, and a high reading would be 100.5 or higher. Now, we don't automatically want to turn somebody away just because they have a temperature of 105. We want to make sure that reading is accurate. A lot of times, if the weather is very warm, you can get a misreading just because your body temperature goes up from the heat. So the first thing I would do is ask them if they have symptoms of COVID. And I've listed the symptoms here for you: a cough, a sore throat, chills, shortness of breath. I think we've seen this list a lot. Headache, body aches, new or loss or taste of smell. And so if you can ask them, you don't have to ask them the whole list, but ask them a few of these. And if they say no, I think it's fine to go ahead and let them come inside and sit on the bench immediately inside the church area, and give them a few minutes to cool down, especially if it's a very warm day like it's been recently, and then retake the temperature. Now, if you do that and you still get a high reading, we do need to ask them to leave at that point. So we want to do this in the most kind way possible. And the way I would do that is to say, I really think you need to be tested for COVID just in case. And tell them we can't allow you because your temperature is high, but if they need any assistance, if they need help finding a testing center, or whatever they need, you can, if you're not able to help them, it is just fine to give me a text with their information, their phone number, their email, and I will find them a testing center if that's what they need. I will walk them through that process, but we don't want to just like abandon them. Oh, I think you need to be tested. Let's be as kind as possible and help them if they need help.
I think that's great. And just a reminder with the whole thing to just be as sort of cheerful and like it's not a huge deal and it's the rules about the whole thing, right? That like you say, oh, shoot, you're still running high. It would be, like Jennifer said, a really good idea for you to just be on the safe side and go get tested. I'm not able to let you into the building, or, so that again, it's about what you can't do, not about what they can't do. Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you need any help? Do you know where to go? Can I help you with that? Again, if you're not freaking out, that helps set the tone for the other person not freaking out.
And that's really true, I think. The next process, once you move past the temperature stage with the individual, you are going to be looking at this form. And again, this is going to be on the clipboard already for you. And if you look down at the bottom, let's see, down here is the list of people that have signed up, how many people are in the party, where they are sitting, and if it's a wheelchair accessible row or not. And then this is just a formality from the website that we use. I did remove the phone numbers. Usually there would be phone numbers and email addresses here. There's also up here at the top, the people helping with the service. I try and pre-fill these for you guys, but if I don't know that someone is volunteering, or occasionally I'll forget someone, like the organist, because she's upstairs and I forget that she's just always there. So do check those and make sure that they are accurate for me, please. As people come in, you will also check off that they arrived, because we need to, if somebody doesn't show, I need to know that. Like I said, you check off each person as they arrive. And if they had 2 people on their party, we need to verify that both names are on that list. They usually are, but you also need to check if one was here and one was not, then make that notation for me as well. If we have a bulletin, you can write their row placement on the bulletin for them, or you can just tell them if we don't have a bulletin. One note about that reservation list: north is on the left and south is on the right. And then before they go into the sanctuary, they should use hand sanitizer. So those are some things that kind of in that process. Now, sometimes we do have people who did not make reservations, or if they made a last minute reservation, I might have pulled the list before they signed up. So if that happens and we have open rows, which we normally do, you can add them. And that is why I added a list of the full seating arrangement for you. And I'll show you that in a minute. Now, the rules are that there can be no more than 5 people in a row from the same household. So if they are from separate households, they really need to sit in separate rows. You will need to make sure to collect the name, phone, and email address of each person in the party. So if there's a couple, yes, of course, their information may be the same, but verify and get separate email addresses if needed. Because contact tracing requires that we contact each person, not each couple, for instance. The outdoor services, we're not going to be requiring seating assignments, so you won't need to make that notation, but the other information is required. And when people go through this process where they've made or not made a reservation but show up anyway, do let them know that I can make a reservation for them if they just call and leave a message on the phone system at the office. And I'll just go into our website, make the reservation for them. I'll call them if I need to get more information. But a lot of the times I have all the information I need in our directory with their email address and their phone number and so on.
Yeah, that is great to know because I wasn't sure for the handful of people who really don't do internet. So good to know that. I've also stood here. There's been some confusion about north and south and, left and right. If you're looking at the altar, that away, which is your left, is north, the direction of the festal icons, right? And then that away is south.
All right, here we go. So this is just that list of available seating, and it's the full list, so you have to compare it to what's already filled in on the other form. But it allows you to kind of quickly look and see what's out there for people. But essentially, it's up to 19 rows, odd numbers right now is how we're doing it. It is good to note that what the rows are the handicap rows, though. I have had people sign up that were handicapped, especially when they're guests from for a funeral or something like that, where they're not members here and they just missed that step where they requested a handicap row. And so I noted that here so that you could maybe seat them in a handicap row. So far, it's not been a problem that I had to move anybody or anything like that. That is a possibility as we get more busy, but hopefully there won't be too much juggling. It would need to be cleaned if you seated someone and then had to ask them to move to accommodate a handicapped person, though. I also noted on here how to get a handicapped person in, because different rows you enter from, the easiest access is from a particular side. So I thought that was helpful for handicapped people so that they didn't arrive and then have to go walk all the way around. And as far as I mentioned, if you already seated someone and have to move them, what is involved in sanitizing is wiping it down with a sanitizer. And the best sanitizers are the ones, we actually have spray bottles with rolls of paper. Those would probably be the best ones. And that just means wiping down the area where the people sat. One note that I found, again, different services have different energy, but some services, I have noticed that groups will gather in the entrance area. And so if that happens, one, you might have to stop letting people in to accommodate those people standing there and not have too many people in the area. But two, it's really not the right way of handling social distancing. So we need to ask them to go ahead and go inside the church and take their seats. And the nice way of saying that is, I need to bring more people in for temperature checks. Could you go into the church? And then, so that's really the process. It's really pretty straightforward once once you walk through it once or twice. After the service, if you could do a final check on that reservation list and make sure there's no mistakes. If people did not show, if you actually write did not show for me, so I know that you checked that off and it wasn't a mistake. And you can just leave the list either on the table or in the front at the front office desk, and I will look for it the next day. Make sure all the volunteers and staff are noted, including the pastor, again, the organist, the ushers. Please take a moment to just wipe down the thermometers with just the wipes that are in the bottles in the on the table. And those can be either left on the table or returned to the front office desk. And we should, just as a last precaution, wipe down the door handles, both the exterior and the interior door handles. And I think that's all I have.
Wonderful. Jennifer, thank you. That was so helpful in making what seemed to me completely overwhelming and bewildering really manageable. In addition, whoever the clergy person in charge of a particular service is will let you know where we're gathering, depending on where the service is, where that check-in point might change, right? If we're going to be out in the fish garden, you're actually going to check people in at the gate to the garden off of the east parking lot, right? If you're checking people in for a service in the courtyard, you're going to check them in right at the entrance to the parish hall. But we can, when you volunteer to host, whoever's in charge of that service will make sure that you have what you need to be successful. And again, we are enormously grateful for your ministry and service. We could not hold services in the church without your ministry. So enormous thanks. And as you see, Jennifer is there when you have questions and is a huge resource to help us through this. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Jennifer.